Shabbat Shalom. I'm Rabbah Arlene Berger, and I'm happy to celebrate Shabbat with you this evening. I'm a chaplain here at the Charles E. Smith Life Communities. We will begin with Bim Bam. Bim Bam, Bim 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 Bam, Bim 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 Bam. Bim Bam, Bim 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 Bam, Bim 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 Bam. Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shalom. Bim, bam, bim, 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 bam, bim, 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 bam. And we will continue with Shalom Aleichem as we welcome in the Shabbat angels. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon. Mi melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu. Boachem l'shalom malachei hashalom malachei elyon. Mi melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu. Baruch hu nile shalom, malachei hashalom, malachei elyon. Mi melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu. Tzedchem l'shalom, malachei hashalom, malachei elyon. Mi melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh Baruch Hu. We'll continue with Matovu. How lovely are your dwellings, O Jacob, your sanctuaries, O Israel. Matovu, Ohalecha Yaakov, Mishkenotecha Yisrael. Matovu, Ohalecha Yaakov, Mishkenotecha Yisrael. We continue with Lecha Dodi as we welcome in the Shabbat Kala, the Shabbat bride. Lecha Dodi likrat Kala penei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha Dodi likrat Kala penei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad. Hishmi'anu el hamyuchad. Adonai echad u'shmo echad. L'shemo tiferet v'lithilah. Lecha Dodi likrat Kala penei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha, ki hi mekor habracha, merosh mikadem nesucha, sof ma'aseh b'machshava techila. Lecha Dodi likrat Kala penei Shabbat nekabela. Yamin u'smol tifrotzi, v'et Adonai ta'aritzi. Al yad ish ben partzi, v'nismecha v'nagila. Lecha Dodi likrat Kala penei Shabbat nekabela. Boi b'shalom ateret bala, gam b'simcha u'v'tzohola. Toch emunei am segula. Boi chala, lecha Dodi likrat Kala penei Shabbat nekabela. We will now do the Baruch Hu. Baruch et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Leolam Vaed. Praised are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who speaks the evening into being, skillfully opens the gates, thoughtfully alters the time and changes the seasons, and arranges the stars in their heavenly courses according to plan. You are creator of day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness away from light, transforming day into night and distinguishing one from the other. Adonai Tzvaot is your name, ever-living God. May you reign continually over us into eternity. Baruch atah Adonai Hama'ari Varavim. Ahavat Olam, God loves us with an everlasting love. Ahavat Olam Beit Yisrael Amcha Ahavta. Torah u'mitzvot, chukim u'mishpatim, otanu limadeta. Alkein Adonai Eloheinu, v'shachvenu u'vekumeinu, nasiach bechukecha, v'nifmach b'divrei Toratecha, u'v'mitzvotecha li'olam va'ed. Ki hem chayenu ve'orech yameinu ve'orech yameinu uvahem nege yomam v'layla ve'ahavatecha al tasir mimenu le'olamim Baruch atah Adonai ohev amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod, Malchuto Leolam Vaed, V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha, V'chol levavcha, V'chol nafshecha, V'chol meodecha, V'hayu hadvarim ha'ele, Asher Anochi Mitzavecha Hayom Alevavecha Vishinantam Nevanecha V'dibarta Bam V'shiftecha B'veitecha Uvlechtecha V'derech Uv'shofecha V'kumecha Ukshartam Leot Al Yadecha V'hayu Letotafot B'neinecha Uktaftam Al Mizuzot Beitecha U'visharecha. You shall love Adonai your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all that is yours. These words which I command you this day shall be taken to heart. Teach them diligently to your children. Speak of them when you sit in your home and when you walk on your way, when you lie down and when you rise up. Bind them as a sign upon your hand, and they shall be as a reminder above your eyes. Inscribe them on the doorposts of your home and upon your gates. Then you will remember and fulfill all my mitzvot and be holy before your God. Shirat Hayam, Song at the Sea. When God's children beheld the power of the divine, they sang in praise of God, gladly accepting God's sovereignty. Moses, Miriam, and the people Israel sang with great joy this song to you. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, Norah tehilot osefele, Norah tehilot osefele. Who is like you, God, among all that is worshipped? Who is like you, majestic in holiness, awesome in splendor, working wonders? Your children beheld your sovereignty as you divided the sea before Moses. This is my God, they responded, declaring, Adonai yimloch leolam vaed. Adonai shall reign forever and ever. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom v'ha'amidenu malkeinu l'chaim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom v'ha'amidenu malkeinu l'chaim. Help us, Adonai, our God, to lie down in peace and awaken us to life again, our sovereign. Spread over us your shelter of peace. Guide us with your good counsel. Save us for the sake of your mercy. Shield us from enemies and pestilence, from starvation, sword, and sorrow. Remove evil forces that surround us. Shelter us in the shadow of your wings. You, O God, guard us and deliver us. You are a gracious and merciful ruler. Guard our coming and our going. Grant us life and peace now and always. Ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael ve'al Yerushalayim. Spread over us your shelter of peace. Praised are you, Adonai, who spreads a shelter of peace over us, over all the people of Israel, and over Jerusalem. We'll continue with Vishamru. Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et hashabat, la'asot et hashabat ledorotam berit olam. Beni uvein b'nei Yisrael, oti leolam, oti leolam, oti leolam. Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et hashabat, la'asot et hashabat ledorotam berit olam. Uvayom hashvi'i shavat vayinafash, shavat vayinafash, shavat vayinafash. Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et hashabat, la'asot et hashabat ledorotam berit olam. We continue with the Amidah, the Avot service, and as always, we're reminded that just as God had individual, unique relationships with all of our ancestors, so too can we have those kinds of relationships with God. We just have to remind ourselves and maybe remind God of that as well. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibur v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomer Chasadim Tovim v'Konei Hakol, v'Zocher Chastei Avot, U'Mevigo El Livnei V'neihem, Leman Shemo B'Yahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshia U'Magen. Baruch atah Adonai Magen Avraham V'Ezrat Sarah. Atah Gibor Leolam Adonai Mechayei Metim Atah Rav Lehoshia Mechakel Chayim B'Chesed Mechayei Metim B'Rachamim Rabim Somech Noflim V'Rofei Cholim Umatir Asurim Umekayem emunato lishenei afar michamocha ba'al geburot umido melech memit umechaye umatzmiach Yeshua v'neman ata lahachayot metim. Baruch ata Adonai mechaye hametim. Ata kadosh v'shimcha kadosh ukdoshim b'chol yom yehalelucha selah. Baruch atah Adonai Ha'el HaKadosh. Oseh shalom bimromav, Uyaseh shalom aleinu, Ve'al kol Yisrael, Ve'imru, imru, amen. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, Ve'al kol Yisrael, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael. May the one who ordains peace in the universe bring peace to us, to all Israel, and to all who dwell on earth. And let us say Amen. We continue with a prayer for healing as adapted by Debbie Friedman and Rabbi Dror Setel. And I invite you to bring into our sacred space the names of those for whom you would like to say an extra prayer for healing. Misha berach avotenu, mekor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us. Help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Misha Berach Imotenu, Mekor HaBracha La'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shalema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen. We continue with Kiddush, and I invite you to raise a glass of wine with me, or water, or whatever it is that you're going to say Kiddush over. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho b'ahava v'ratzon hinchilanu zikaron l'maaseh v'reishit ki hu yom techila l'mikra'e kodesh zecher l'tziat Mitzrayim ki banu v'acharta v'otanu kidashta Mikol ha'amim v'shabbat kodshecha v'ahava v'ratzon hinchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh HaShabbat. We will continue with some words of Torah. This week's Torah portion is Ekev, and I call this Dvar Torah, How Do We Serve God? So the question raised by this week's Torah portion, Ekev, is as follows. We find it in Deuteronomy chapter 10, verse 12. And now, O Israel, what does your God, Adonai Elohecha, demand of you? In his article, Adonai Elohim, the Two Faces of God, Rabbi Harold Schulweis discusses the two names of God that appear to guide our lives in almost all of our prayers. He writes that Elohim is the ground of the universe that is given, and Adonai is the energy that transforms. Adonai Elohim marks the cooperation, the transaction between the human and the divine. This explanation helps us conceive of how to actualize the cooperation or transaction between ourselves and God. The Torah continues in the same verse, only this, to revere your God, Adonai Elohecha, to walk only in divine paths, to love and serve your God with all your heart and soul, keeping Adonai's commandments and laws, which I enjoin upon you today for your good, litov lecha, for your good. As a chaplain, when I visit someone who is feeling challenged both practically and theologically, I often use these verses as a way to find a way to go forward. I talk about this beautiful teaching of Rabbi Schulweis's, that when we say the expression Adonai Elohim, we're talking about the cooperation, the transaction between the human and the divine. So not something far away, some God that's just floating around, but this God with whom we're in relationship with. The verse helps us to recall that we live in ongoing partnership and that we're given parameters for this partnership to follow the commandments, which provide us with a game plan to live a life of meaning and purpose. When we serve our God with our entire being and experience the reverence and awe that is to be found by existing in this world, which contains both divinity and everyday humanity, we cleave to the divine and acknowledge that we're never going it alone. Ultimately, we do this for the good, for our good, litov lecha. When we see the word tov, or good, used in this way, we're taken back to creation and to the Garden of Eden. God created humans to become caretakers of all that was good under creation, and to recognize and experience the awesomeness of our partnership. The Da'at Skenim, a Torah commentary from the 12th to 13th century, posits that these verses present a list that comprises all aspects of life. He writes that according to one view, God asks us only to do what is clearly of benefit for us and is good for us, and the observance of which will result in our earning a great reward. Now, what is that great reward? Some might say that the reward is to be found in the afterlife, or Olam Haba, the world to come. I prefer the understanding that the reward is to be found, as Rabbi Schulweis says, in the cooperation, the transaction between the human and the divine. We humans are born into a world that is imperfect. Our task is to leave the world a better place than the one we were born into. We are to make a difference through our interactions with others, both known and those we have not yet met. We face the injustices of our world, both to people and to the planet, in the best ways that we can, and we strive to make a difference, both for ourselves and for others. We do recognize that we'll fail at times, but that we will learn from our failures and continue on to our next challenge. And to me, that's what the Parsha asks when it says, "And now, O Israel, what does your God, Adonai Elohecha, demand of us, of you?" A final thought. According to Rabbi Schulweis, when our Parsha asks, "And now, O Israel, what does your God demand of you?" Rabbi Schulweis offers the following answer. He says, we can use the memory and energies in ourselves and our community to lift up those who are bowed down, to mend the torn fabric of the universe, to comfort the bereaved, and to lift up those who are fallen. Elohim and Adonai, accept and transform. We'll continue now with Ein Kelohenu. Ein Kelohenu, Ein Kadonenu, Ein Kemalkenu, Ein Kemoshienu, Mich Elohenu, Mich Adonenu, Mich Kemalkenu, Mich Moshienu. Nodel Elohenu, Nodel Adonenu, Nodel Malkenu, Nodel Moshienu, Baruch Elohenu, Baruch Adonenu, Baruch Malkeinu, Baruch Moshienu, Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu Adonenu, Atahu Malkeinu, Atahu Moshienu, Atahu Sheiktiru, Avotenu, Lefanecha et Ketoret Hasamim. Aleinu. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסר הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו, בגבהי מרומים, הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו אפס עולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשבות אל לבביך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת, אין עוד, ככתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא, יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו Ushemo Echad. A poem before we say the Mourner's Kaddish. Yesh Kochavim by Chana Senesh. There are stars up above, so far away we only see their light, long, long after the star itself is gone. And so it is with people that we loved. Their memories keep shining ever brightly, though their time with us is done. But the stars that light up the darkest night, these are the lights that guide us. As we live our days, these are the ways we remember. Mourner's Kaddish, I invite you to join with me if you are in mourning, if you are observing a yurtzeit this Shabbat or in the week ahead, or if it is your custom to say Mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, be'olma divra kirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon uvyomechon uvchaye dechol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kari v'imru amen, Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam alomer maya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitroman v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei dekudesha brichu, Le'ena min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'olma v'imru amen. Yehei shalama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru amen. May the one who ordains peace on high bring peace to us, to all Israel, and to all who dwell on earth. And may the memories of our loved ones always be for a blessing. And let us say Amen. We conclude with Adon Olam. Adon Olam Asher Malach, B'terem kol Yitzir Nivra, Li'etz Nasa B'chefzo kol, Azai Melech, Shemo nikra v'acharei kichlot hakol, levado yimloch nora v'hu haya v'hu hoveh v'hu yiyeh betifara v'hu echad v'ein sheni, להמשיל לו להכבירה בלי ראשית בלי תכלית ולא העוז והמשרה, והוא אלי וחי גואלי, וצור חבלי בעת צרה, והוא ניסי ומנוס לי, מנת כוסי ביום אקרא, בידו אפקיד רוחי, בעת אישן ועירה, ועם רוחי Geviati Adonai li velo ira. I want to wish you a Shabbat Shalom, a Shabbat of love and peace and health and happiness. Shabbat Shalom.